Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Implementing Corequisites to Support Math Pathways. My name is Danny Shapiro, and I'm on the marketing team here at Hawks Learning. Our speakers today are Dr. Linda Goeller, Melissa Bryant, Lynnette Gomez, and Emily Carpenter of Seminole State College, otherwise known as the SSC Math Incredibles. With over 50 years of cumulative experience in math education, this team has been recently working together to enact 4 relevant math pathways for their students, along with implementing dynamic corequisite math courses. Their mission is to ensure Seminole State College students complete their general math courses in 1 semester while exploring math pertinent to their field of study. We are excited that the SSC Math Incredibles are here with us today. If you have any questions during the webinar, please enter those into the Q&A box located on either the top or bottom of your screen, and we will address them at the end of the talk. And on that note, I will hand it over to our presenters.
Good afternoon. My name is Lynnette Gomez, and as Danny introduced us, this is going to be implementation of corequisites to support the math pathways. We will introduce our team in the following slides. So this is a team. Our team members have been working so hard to begin the process, follow through it, and continue on with this process of change here at Seminole State College. We are in Oklahoma, not in Florida, and so these have been our group members for this challenge here. The next slide, they'll be introducing each other as they come along. We'll begin with some testimonials from our students. Mr. Bryant Fanning here is letting us know about the Special Topics Corequisite course. This corequisite course is directly following our lecture course, and so we named it Special Topics. He emphasizes on how the corequisite course, or the Special Topics course, allowed him to get confidence not only in his math courses, but also throughout his college courses as well. If we continue on to the next slide, we will be presenting over the past, present, and future challenges. One of the past challenges that we have had is having multiple courses for our students to go through in order to complete their math courses. And so we knew there needed to be a change. So we were tasked with developing different pathways in the summer of 2017. And we were able to go through with it, the planning process, and were able to implement them in the fall of 2017. Some of our present issues that we will be talking about, or also our successes, is the implementation and the revision of the pathways, of course, and along with the corequisites that we have put in place with them. The future challenges or future goals that we have in place are that we are looking to fine-tune anything that we need to cover in order for our students to get the most out of our math courses in this least amount of time. Another thing that we will be covering is the graduation rates. Another testimonial by Mr. Thomas Barksdale. He's one of our more colorful students, and he understood the importance of the corequisite courses in his learning experience, along with the rigor and the quality that the Hawks Learning program provides. So it's a really, really great resource. On our next slide, I will lead this on to Miss Melissa Bryant. Oh, goodness.
Hi there, I'm Melissa Bryant. I've been at Seminole State College since 1999. I was first an adjunct here, and then in 2011, I became a full-time faculty member. So since I'm kind of the dinosaur of the group, I get to talk about the past and what we were doing, and some of the challenges we were facing, and what made us think, hey, we've got to change our ways here. So you can see back in 1999 when I first started, last century, I guess, we had 2 different pathways. You either took college algebra or math and society. And so most of our students were actually in college algebra, with the few students that were going in maybe language arts or art in general were able to take math and society. So much like other colleges, the way that the students were placed in the class is by their ACT score. However, Seminole State has an open door policy, and you don't have to have an ACT to come to our school. It's encouraged for you to take it, but it's not a requirement. So if you didn't have an ACT score, or if your ACT score was old, you're required to take a in-house test to decide what class that you were placed in. So most of those people came to enroll, and then, oh, surprise, here's this test that you have to take, and we're going to put you in a math class because of it. So the majority of our students were being placed in our basic math, which truly was basic math, like maybe 5th and 6th grade math. That sounds terrible, but that's kind of the way it was. So they would take a whole semester of that. Then they would get to move on to elementary algebra. That is if they scored a C or higher in basic math. And then on to intermediate algebra, and then finally take college algebra or math and society. So that meant they took 3 semesters worth of not credit classes. They still had to pay for them, but they weren't earning credit until that 4th semester. So that was pretty frustrating for lots of students, and for the professors as well. So a lot of math not getting credit for, and not very happy people. So we did that for a very long time, probably way too long. Then in 2010, we did a little bit of tweaking. We took away the basic math class, changed it to basic algebra, added a lot more algebra actually. And then we also added an elementary intermediate algebra class, so we could do both elementary and intermediate in one semester. So that meant that the students could actually, everybody could get through with their math in 3 semesters, not 4 as it was before. So that was a little bit better, but still most of the students were taking at least 2 semesters worth of non-credit classes before they could actually get credit for math. So in 2013, you can see the only difference between 2010 and 2013 was the addition of special topics. Now, special topics is what we call our co-rec class that we have. We're still calling it that. But in 2013, we did it a little differently. It was a pilot class. And what we did is, if students had been in basic algebra and maybe were perhaps there because they were misplaced, or it had just been so long since they'd had math that they weren't ready to jump into algebra class. So they took basic algebra. But if they performed really well, scored a B or an A in that class, if their attendance was good, and if the teacher recommended them, they could go straight to college algebra. So skipping all of the intermediate and the elementary, and going straight to college algebra with this class that we called special topics, a co-rec. So they took it at the same time. So now everyone should be able to get through with math in 2 semesters, which, although that was fabulous because it was much better than the 4 semesters that it had been taking, we still weren't completely satisfied. We were having the issues that we were having. We weren't able to graduate because they couldn't get through the math. I think every college has that issue, but we were seeing it, I think, more because, well, starting from 1999, it was taking them 4 semesters to get through. So they just would drop out. They'd get frustrated. Even if they did well in 2 of the 3 0-level classes, they still had 1 more to go. So they were just getting frustrated. Another issue we were having, a lot of science classes they couldn't take because they hadn't cleared their deficiency in math. So they had taken everything that they could possibly take. There was nothing left, but they hadn't gotten through their math. So they were kind of stuck. And then the one that really made me the most mad, I guess, was the students weren't able to take relevant math classes because colleges only were accepting college algebra and not anything else. So we were forcing them to take college algebra when probably their careers, they didn't need college algebra. So we felt, or at least I felt, that a lot of people were being frustrated with math in general. Oh, I hate math. Well, it's because they couldn't think of how they would ever use this. So if our goal was to get the students through college level math in one semester, you can see 2014, 15, and 16, we were ranging in the 30s. So if you think about that as a test grade, would you be happy if you were getting in the 30s? Probably not. So we knew we weren't doing very well, but what were we going to do about that? So in the fall of 2017, we got together and said, okay, we're going to do this. Even though most of the other colleges in our area were not on board at all with this, we thought this is the way this is going to go down. New pathways are coming. Oh, and by the way, we also changed at this point from our Campus Connect to a new D2L. So we not only had new pathways coming, we had changes in our whole computer system, and then our corequisites. We had everything changing all at the same time. I don't know that we all thought about that. I think we would have said no, but we did it all at the same time. It turned out to be probably the best thing that Seminole State has done in the math department in forever. But what we did is we decided to go, instead of our two pathways, which were Math and Society and College Algebra, we changed our Math and Society to quantitative reasoning. We amped up our College Algebra and changed it to pre-calculus, so the only students that take pre-calculus are ones that are going into calculus. And then added elementary statistics, which the majority of the students now take elementary statistics or quantitative reasoning and do not deal with the pre-calculus. And the beauty of all of this is all of these are offered with the special topics if the student needs it. So if they don't test into college credit class immediately, then they are placed in the co-rec of special topics. All three, the quantitative, the pre-calc, and the statistics, all of them have special topics to go with it. So everyone gets through in one semester. And I think that was all I was going to say about that. Okay, back to Ms. Lynnette.
Yes, and for mine here, we have the three, like Miss Melissa was talking about, or four. We started off with three, and then we incorporated another one. So for this one, it's Math 1413, Math 1503, Math 1523, and then Math 1513 right there. So depending on this major of a student that they have to select, they will be going into these courses. So for example, if you're going into agriculture, then you're going to go into Math 1513. We selected these names for them just to make sure that we have a different name compared to what we had before, so that they would know that this is a whole new system here. And so we carefully researched, and we carefully modified the names, looked at the schools around us to see what the students in a specific major would need. And so this took a lot of time and a lot of effort, but we were able to do it fairly quickly with a lot of phone calls and stuff like that. And so this right here is going to help us at Seminole State College get the students through in the first semester. And so we had to play our cards very well with advising, making sure everybody was really well educated in this new process that we were doing. And so this just kind of sums up all the majors and what the students need to take. On our next slide that we have here, we will be talking about what we currently have. So as Ms. Melissa talked about, the new majors that we have for the new courses that we have here, are depending on their placement cut scores. And so what we have is that students will either take just the 3 if their ACT is high enough, or they will take the second level right there if their ACT is between a 16 to 18. And then we have, if their ACT is too low, then we'll have they'll go into 1 and then they'll fall into number 2 and then go from there. And so it's a little bit of a breakdown. You have to look at the placement scores on the right-hand side of each column, but this is as clear as we can make it for our students, for our advisors, in order for them to see where they need to be properly placed. And with this, we will lead into our present with Dr. Linda Goeller.
We know that the numbers can show success. All right, so we know that the numbers can show success, but if students don't feel successful, then we still are not successful. So we surveyed the students to see what they thought, and students reported the following. First, were the integrated review exercises helpful? 50% said yes if they were used. If you took a special topics course, did you think it helped you to succeed? 100% said yes. 40% of the students changed majors after the first of the fall semester, but only 0% of the students felt that the change affected them adversely. 86% feel that they're going to complete their associate's degree at Seminole State, which is key to their success at four-year schools, and 81% determined that they were more likely to succeed now than later. Than they were before, more likely now than they were before. So what are the factors affecting our success? Our developmental students would not have been successful without the co-requisite courses. We offer tutoring. With 4 courses offered, the statistics tutoring has been the biggest challenge. Most of our students have never seen statistics in a math course, so finding student tutors and training them in statistics, that's been a challenge. We offered training, access to the course material, and just as much support as we could possibly give. It was a little bit rocky at first, but we have it under control now. The entering student advisors have been able to place students into the correct math course. Now, because the students are so successful, we have had to consider options for placing students in math during the second semester since we can't accommodate them all the first semester. So we're facing challenges with the second semester placement. But we hope to get that resolved with more attention to that issue. And you'll notice from this slide that we have more students placing into statistics than any other course. We did offer basic algebra again in fall 2018. And we plan to offer this course in the fall semester, but not in the spring semester. You'll notice that we have 9% or had 9% in basic algebra, 27% in quantitative reasoning, 41% in statistics, 16% in pre-calculus for business and biology, and only 8% in the pre-calculus for engineering, computer science, physics. The pre-calculus for engineering course that had the most students prior to our revision now has the fewest number of students, but all of those students are planning on going into Calculus 1. So on the next slide, you'll see our biggest success. We have more student completion in the first semester of taking a math course. In fall 2016, we had 35.5% of the students completing college math in the first semester. After beginning the math pathways with co-requisites, we had 84% in fall 2017, but we didn't offer anything but the co-requisites with college level math. We looked it over and decided that we needed to offer basic algebra again. So in fall 2018, we offered one developmental course and had a success rate of 74.6%. Even more impressive, we had 550 students entering their first math course in fall 2016. Only 234 of these students took a college level math course. Now, all of our students receive the opportunity to complete college level math in the first year, with the majority completing the college level math in one semester. And so what does that mean to us and to our school? More student success makes our jobs less stressful and more joyful. It's so much more fun to teach a math class that the students act as if they want. So our school is affected because we expect our students to perform well here, to get their degree here. So our graduation rates should increase.
Unmute myself there. Just kidding.
Okay.
We're still waiting.
So as Dr. Goeller told us that the student-teacher interaction relationship is really important for the students to really know that they're cared for. And so this extra co-requisite course allows us to really pay attention to the students and kind of model the questions or the projects that we have for our students towards them. And so this allows us to have that time. As Mr. Michael Davis states here, it is really important. Without this co-requisite course, he mentions that he would severely struggle with the math course. So we are constantly getting these feedbacks, these comments from our students saying that this is really, really helpful, especially if it's right after their course. And so for our next slide, it'll show a little bit of a timeline for what we have been doing here in the state of Oklahoma. The Student Success Initiative started, and so everybody by the fall of 2018 already had to switch to some sort of pathways. And so we knew that the surrounding universities and colleges around us were going to have to make the change. So we were one of the first ones to start this change and saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. So we still have a lot of universities and colleges kind of coming to us and saying, hey, how did you do this? What are you guys doing? Are your rates going up or down? And so again, we began this process in the summer of 2017. We started implementing in the fall 2017. And then we started increasing or adding that one course, which was the pre-calculus with the business bio in the spring of 2018. And right now, everybody in our surrounding is making the change. And so we're starting to see positive towards that, more communication between the institutions, and so what they do accept and what they don't accept. So this leads into our future challenges or future goals with Miss Emily Carpenter.
Yay, now it's my turn. Okay, I got a little excited a while ago. So yeah, I'm going to talk about where we're planning to go with this. And you guys know as educators that our jobs never cease. It just kind of continues on. And I think probably something to stress that Melissa kind of touched on just a bit is the amount of flexibility that it took. I think we sat in a meeting when we kind of started looking at this, and we were like, okay, let's just do it. Let's do it all. Like, we know this is what's best. We know that this is what's best for students. We know we're going to have to adjust. But we were willing to do that. And the good thing about that is we've seen some really positive, you've seen the numbers, getting this positive feedback from students. So it's definitely most days been worth all the change. And so some of the things that we're still struggling with, and this may kind of touch base with some of your questions, or you may have specific questions about this, trying to project the appropriate number of math classes needed for each pathway seems like it shouldn't have been such a daunting task. You kind of saw the breakdowns from Dr. Lynnette Goeller, the students going to each pathway, but that has continued to be, as our the students coming in, the flux kind of, ebbs and such, that's been a little bit challenging to determine, okay, how many sections, instead of just needing, okay, we're going to offer this many sections of college algebra, really trying to meet that percentage for each student and make sure that we're small. So trying to make sure that we have, appropriate times, that's been a little bit of a challenge. We have really fought to limit our special topics classes to 22 students. A side note, we often get to teach our own special topics classes. I don't know if that was mentioned. I can't remember if that's been mentioned before or not. So I mean, from a personal standpoint, now that's not always the case. Sometimes an adjunct is teaching for us as well, but we are small, so we work really hand in hand with those adjuncts if we don't get to teach our own special topics. And so we really kind of got that feel of trying to go in. I mean, it's kind of a flipped classroom approach where you're working with the students, they're working on Hawks, maybe working on a project or something. And so, I mean, there's only one of us and 22 of them. And so, I mean, really more than that, it gets to be pretty daunting. And then trying to create a balance between the transitional or developmental students and non-traditional in the credit-bearing course. And so really trying to make sure that it's a, you know, kind of a differentiated feel. And so that's a little bit hard sometimes with enrollment and such. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir that these are all issues that all colleges have. So this slide is kind of exciting. We have some real exciting slides for you. This is the percent of students completing math general ed requirements in one course, so that 81%. So we kind of already talked about this again, but this is, you know, definitely just beyond a shadow of a doubt why we're doing what we're doing, because we have the evidence that it is really that we're getting students through. And you know, what does that mean? Well, it means that we are retaining them. And so, you know, those problems that Melissa spoke about, having students not being able to enroll in science classes, or maybe just getting so frustrated because they have 4 semesters of math to get through. You know, I mean, we're seeing a much greater retention rate. And then also, I mean, our hope is that then that graduation rate, and, you know, you guys know that sometimes that data is a little bit latent and coming in and seeing, so we haven't been, we have some kind of preliminary data that we're pretty excited about. But I mean, if we're retaining students and we're getting in over that math hurdle, then hopefully then we're going on and we're retaining them through graduation, and we are kind of removing that hurdle for them. And there's lots of research that shows that that's one of the biggest indicators of dropout rates for students, and we were definitely feeling that. So this is, like I said, preliminary as far as, like, you guys know that sometimes it's latent, those graduation rates. And so you can see that we are hoping that we're getting those students through just a little bit quicker, and can get them that percent of total up. We're a little bit above our state average for community colleges, and we have some other great student success initiatives going on our campus that help that. And so we're just a bit above. I think my next slide actually says that we're the second highest graduation rate percentage out of all 12 public two-year colleges. And so basically what we're thinking and we're hoping is that if we fixed some of that retention, if we know this math hurdle is there, we know that we were keeping students from getting through their math and then being able to take their science and quickly, then that was keeping them from, you know, possibly graduating or graduating on time. And so our, you know, like I said, our hope is that we're going to go on and get that graduation rate up. So and to say that the pathways and corequisites are a piece of the student success that we looked at critically from a couple of years ago. So one of the biggest things is communication. So talking to high school counselors, math teachers, administration, making sure they understand that whole thought of college algebra is, you know, the math class you take, parents saying that, counselors saying that. Like Lynnette said, we as a state, we're seeing that happen, that they're going to those pathways as a state. And so it's not just us. And so this is something they're needing to discuss with all of the students, that you're going to need to choose a meta major. And you guys saw those kind of pathways broken down. You know, are you interested in health science? Great, let's put you in statistics. You don't need to, you know, specifically know where you want to land in health science, but let's at least put you in the right meta major. And that goes back to that career planning in high school, because not everybody is going to come in and, you know exactly what they want to do, but can we focus it? We've had to work with advisors because often that doesn't happen in high school, or maybe they're still confused when they come in to enroll. And so advisors have really helped us out with sitting down with those students when they come in and explaining the math pathways, and saying, okay, well, these are the different degree fields, what are you wanting to do, where are you wanting to go with this. So we've had to rely on those initial advising moments as well to have those conversations. And kind of going back to enrollment issues, we've had a lot of students, a lot of advisors wanting to put all the students in first semester. And so our fall semester has been really heavy and our spring semester has been really light as instructors. And so trying to balance that out, we want them to get through in the first year, but they don't have to get through in the first semester. And so some of them do, our engineering majors do, and our students that need to go on and take their biologies do, so it's been a little bit more of an advising challenge, but we've been working pretty closely with them. And so our newest class that we've added that on to the pathways was the pre-calculus for business biology majors. And so that's been kind of a fun class to teach, really looking at how to integrate technology, a lot more application, a lot more modeling of functions. And so we've been able to use some problem-based learning, and Hawks has been a great resource for us, because it's most of the content has projects that you can use. I'm going to show one actually from a statistics course in just a little bit, but we kind of even changed the way that we are teaching a lot of our courses, now that we are getting to teach content that is relevant, and we know what our future, our students, what their futures hold, or at least kind of know what fields they're going into, then we can tailor the types of problems we're presenting, we can tailor the types of projects that we're doing, and there's just a lot more student buy-in because they're seeing relevance in not only the content, but the types of activities that we're doing in class. And so I was going to take just a quick moment and share with you guys there's several different projects, or from each. If you go to the Hawks Learning site, and actually I already have one pulled up, and go to instructor resources, this is the one. This is actually one that I just got finished doing with one of my statistics classes today, and we actually used Excel, but they have them already made for you. And not to say that I don't always, sometimes I kind of put my own spin on it, sometimes I create my own, but we are busy, I'm sure, like you guys are, so not reinventing the wheel. But it's been really, really fun to get to. And this one has to do with frequency distributions, and we actually then created histograms on Excel. And so they had the tabular, and then they had the graphic to look at different representations. And so that's been pretty exciting to be able to, as an instructor. Really, so often that question, when will I ever use this again? Well, I mean, we're really providing students with that. So, and like I said, the feedback from students is just overwhelming. I mean, data is great, but I mean, we have some pretty amazing students that have come in with some pretty incredible stories that are on their way to getting degrees, because we've helped them get over that math hurdle. And so, like I said, I mean, we have done a lot of structural things, but one of the biggest things I think is Hawks Learning has been about the time that we changed. We actually integrated Hawks Learning too, and so having that integrated review aspect, having the projects, I mean, all of it is just working together and really helping scaffold for those students. And they're always a little grumpy at the beginning of the semester about that 80%, trying to hit that, approximate 80% accuracy, but it really does hold them to a higher level and make sure that they are actually understanding the content. And so this is our contact information, and I think we're probably ready for questions, and we would love to answer questions here, but that's also our contact. We would love to answer emails. We kind of like to talk about what we're doing, passionate about it. So bring it.
Okay, thank you so much for the whole presentation, and for our audience who is already starting to submit some great questions for us. So Rena is wondering if you all can speak on the difference between quantitative reasoning and elementary statistics. and she's wondering, isn't quantitative reasoning included in elementary statistics? How are those different?
Okay, I can take that one just briefly, and then you guys chime in if you have something else to think about. So the term quantitative reasoning is interesting because I think you could probably call any math class quantitative reasoning, any of the math classes, if you really, understand. It's always a little bit, students are always like, what is quantitative reasoning? So elementary statistics is a statistics course. It covers about the first 10 or so chapters of the Hawks Elementary Statistics text. But quantitative reasoning is it's a broader type of, like a general type of math course. And so our education majors go into that class. Our criminal justice students go into that class, arts, English. And so I teach that class, and then Lynnette can speak to this just a bit too. Actually, we keep our syllabi pretty broad, our syllabus pretty broad. And so I actually tailor that class just a little bit to my population. I mean, there's some, so it kind of covers various facets of math that we very much kind of look at what our population is and where our students are going. So for instance, if I have a lot of education majors, I teach them math concepts for educators courses that they take after that. So I'm preparing them for the general education tests that they're going to have to prepare for education. So Lynnette, do you have something else to add to that?
Yeah, the book for the quantitative reasoning, the one that we use, is Viewing Life Mathematically from Hawks. And so that, as Emily says, we just target it depending on our population, our students that are coming in. If we have a majority of the students taking or wanting to be elementary instructors, then we're going to target that for them. And so just depending on their interests, we do a little survey. I do a little survey in my classes to get to know them just a little bit more. And so that's what the quantitative reasoning is actually all about. We used to call it Math and Society. I believe Miss Melissa Bryant was talking about that before. And then the statistics, what we use there is the elementary statistics. We do use them, the books from Hawks, in both our lecture course and our our special topics or the corequisite course. And so we do use a lot of their content, like the project that Miss Emily was showing you. It's just so interactive with the students, and it hits a nerve with them. A chord with them. Just everything is so relevant. They'll be able to use that in their real life. So it's really, really important, really engaging for the students. So.
And to play off that, we're getting a couple more questions about the special topics section. And so for quantitative reasoning or for really any of these special topic courses, how much time is spent for those classes, and what does a typical day look like there?
I'm going to start out by saying there is no typical day for me in a special topics class, because it depends on what you're going over. So for instance, in pre-calc this morning, a lot of it was that the students were working on their Hawks assignment and they were trying to figure out how to do it. So I didn't have enough time to help each student individually. It felt like I walked out feeling like we needed another hour. The special topics classes are typically 50 minutes, 3 times a week. And some of the students, they're just fine. Others need the extra attention with every single problem. So there really is no typical day. One day I may not be paying any attention to anyone. They're all doing their own thing. And then the next day, everybody needs help.
And it is 3 hours. So if it's usually it's right after the credit bearing course. And so like she taught the pre-calc class for 50 minutes, or on Tuesday, Thursday, an hour and 15. And then they go to their special topics class right after. Now for scheduling, we've had to put a couple of them right before, but either way, they just butt up next to, it's the credit bearing and then the special topics course, and it's equal time. So it's 3 and 3 hours, it's 6 hours per semester, or that semester, to get them through, but then they're through their general ed math.
I feel like it really kind of evolves through the semester. At the beginning of the semester, I'm way more active during special topics. A lot of times I will kind of extend my learning, whatever I talked about in pre-calc, then I'll kind of continue that on in special topics. And they don't do a lot of their homework during that special topics time. But then as we get onto this, further into this semester, they get into the groove of things, and they understand more what Hawks wants. That sometimes they are frustrated in what I think I put the right answer in, and they just don't understand that they're not putting it in correctly. So I feel like at the beginning of the semester, it's a lot more me working with them and a little bit more hands-on, and then toward the end of the semester, not as much. So it sort of evolves.
And do you all use a guided notebook at all for any of the special topics courses?
We have tried to do that, and it wasn't as successful as using the Hawk software. So we have used it in class some, but not at the present time. Do you guys use it? I know I did last semester, but not now. The software is so good, and the material that comes with it is so good that we haven't really needed, I haven't needed the guided notebook so much. Emily, do you use it?
I'm not this semester. I have in semesters past, and I'm kind of echoing what Linda said, that I felt like the integrated review had enough, and without using the guided notebook. It was not that it wasn't helpful. It was just for time purposes, I've stopped using it. But I'm pretty careful with my time. I really like projects and lots of good discussion. I have my students in groups, and so that was kind of a sacrifice I had to make for time purposes. But the integrated review held enough without me feeling like I needed the guided notebook.
And I feel like having the special topics with the course, with the instructor attached to the instructor, instead of having another teacher teach the special topics, that each one of those special topics is different. Even for me, teaching different courses, the special topics is one way for one course, one way for another course. So we're really flexible with our special topics.
And it's been cool. I think you kind of started to say this, Linda, about our students. They've kind of formed like cohorts. Mm-hmm. And so as there is, often, there is only just one of us, but often, there's 20-something students. And so they very quickly, because they spend, 2 hours, 6 hours a week together, but 3 hours pretty intensively. And so I already actually, in one of my statistics classes, I have 2 students that stay, and when they finish their assignments or their projects, they actually start helping others. Like, I didn't ask them to do that, but they kind of start, and they kind of form groups and study groups, and which is kind of cool for us, because if you think about, we're small enough, and with the math pathways, a lot of these students, like for instance in statistics, a lot of them are going to go to our nursing school together, and so they will kind of continue on, or they have each other in the principles of biology classes together. So it's kind of formed, I don't know if we actually thought about that, but it's formed some kind of unique cohort situations for those students.
It sure has.
And we have another question wondering if it took a long time to specialize the problems for the lectures, worksheets, handouts, group activities for each of these specific majors.
It hasn't really. I'll take this one. With Hawks, the program, just everything has been so amazing. The resources that Hawks offers, it just has cut down the time. We go and do our web tests from the Hawks portal, the program, and we can select the ones we want. We can modify the questions that they have on there, like the answers, and how, if we only want multiple choice, if we want them to do anything else, then it's really, really helpful. And so for me, I haven't spent so much time in developing all of this stuff. It's just picking and choosing the projects or the questions that are targeted, or more specifically, related to our students in that course, in that class. So.
And Sarah is wondering if, just wanting to clarify that you all use Hawks for both the course and the co-rec, and is also wondering how often each of these courses meet.
Yes, we use both of them for the lecture course and the co-requisite course. And like I believe Emily mentioned before, we have Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes, and those are 50 minutes each for the lecture class. And then directly after, it's the co-requisite class, the special topics class also meets 15 minutes. On Tuesday, Thursday, our lecture classes meet for an hour and 15 minutes. And then the co-requisite course is also an hour and 15 minutes after that. And so.
And could you speak to your calculator policy for these courses?
Yes. I'm just kidding. We like them. I think that we are using TI-84s for statistics, and then the pre-calc for business bio and pre-calc for engineering. We kind of have gone back and forth with the elementary statistics randomly. We kind of had started out using it a bit and not really using it, and we have worked with our bookstore where they're now renting calculators to the students, which has been amazing. Like I said, we had this student success initiative going on in our campus, and so it's been really easy to get people on board. So that was one of the things. Our students couldn't afford graphing calculators, and so for quantitative reasoning, we don't require a graphing calculator, just a scientific. TI-84s for everything else. And there's quite a bit in statistics you can do on Excel. And so I know that the instructors we use, like I was saying just a while ago, we made histograms on Excel. I try to use both. I always tell my students that, like, you know, when they're actually out in the real world working, they're not going to pull their, like, you know, their graphing calculator out of their, you know, and they're probably going to use Excel. Unfortunately, that's their least favorite to use. So it's, what did you say just a second ago, Lynnette? Not striking a chord, but sometimes it's a little painful getting them there, you know, like it's necessary pain. And when they come out of my class, you know, they see Excel in another class, they see it in our introduction to Microsoft Office. So that's one more way of making it relevant, that, you know, this is, you actually can use Excel. This is something you'll have, you know, possibly in your future career, most likely.
And Michelle is wondering, do the four-year schools that students transfer to still require college algebra? What happens when students transfer? How do you deal with this?
Okay, I'm going to take this one. So what we have in Oklahoma is that if you graduate with an associate's degree, then all of your gen ed requirements are met. So you don't have to meet the gen ed requirements. So we've been wondering that too recently, because most of the four-year schools in Oklahoma are going to the pathways, but they have not quite moved as quickly as we wanted them to. So they do require a lot of college algebra, but they also have the modeling class, or what we call pre-calculus for business and biology. They also have the math and society, and they are struggling over the statistics. So, that's the one thing that we're struggling with. But even if our students take statistics, if they transfer with a degree, that counts for their gen ed. And I went ahead and looked it up last week, trying to make sure for our students that it would be okay. And for psychology, for the ones that we were worried about that require the college algebra or require the even the modeling class, the students, if they have their gen ed math, there are not courses in their degree that have a prereq of college algebra or the modeling class. So they're fine. They're transferring just fine as long as they have their degree. So that's why we're pushing that degree for their success. If they go without the degree, we can't help them.
One more plug for graduation rates, right?
That's right. That's
right. Finish year.
And Jennifer is asking about students who maybe you identify as really not being ready for college level math, or maybe they self-identify that way. How do you find students like that are struggling both in the credit portion and the developmental portion? Do they still continue to come to both? How do you handle that?
So what we've found, I think the best thing that we've done is the basic algebra class. So we still have the one developmental class, but those students, they either self-identify or we put them in at a very low score. the score has to be really low for us to determine that they have to place into that. Mainly because we found that our students are successful in the special topics and the credit-bearing course.
And like Linda said, if we're going to offer that only in the fall, our hope is that they take basic algebra in the fall, and then we get them in their credit-bearing course. Oftentimes, they go on and take the special topics. 3 of the pathways, they go on and take the special topics their second semester then. And so they still have quite a bit of support. Although we were really excited about being 100% co-rec, that was part of our flexibility, was realizing that we still have some students that either need that basic algebra, or sometimes they feel like they need that basic algebra, and we're coming in and they were wanting, you know, a course. We have a lot of non-traditional students, and that was, you know, definitely a concern for them. So, but we still then are hopefully getting them through within the first year, getting them through their math, even if they have to take that basic algebra. But we are limiting it to just the one section.
And what happens if a student fails the special topics course? How do you handle that for the credit level course?
For this one, they have to pass both of them. So if they fail their co-requisite course, then they will fail their lecture course. So they have to pass both or fail both. So it doesn't matter if they have a high score in their lecture course but don't do well in their co-requisite course. It's not going to matter. We have the pass both or fail both for our classes. And so.
And for those continuing on with these sort of separate courses, do the special topics course have homework assignments that are separate and on their own from the credit-bearing course?
I think we're all maybe just a little bit different. I mean, as far as the content homework from the credit-bearing course, they won't have separate homework in the special topics. The special topics is a pass-fail course. And I think where we maybe differ is how we use the integrated review. And we kind of, you know, have all kind of our own little ways. So I think there's some, you guys can maybe speak for this, like I assign the integrated review assignments to all of my students in my credit bearing course, and, you know, statistics, for instance. And so then they don't have any extra assignments in special topics. Special topics is just a support class for that. And so I know that there are some, the adjunct that actually teaches one of my special topics, she has some, you know, some quizzes and some things that she does kind of on top of that. But I pretty much just use the special topics time as that flipped time to work individually as a tutor with students, you know, either in small groups. So they don't have extra assignments. I give the grade based off of attendance and then an average of their assignments that they're completing for their for their credit bearing course. You guys, do you do something differently?
No, that's the way I do it too.
We found that there isn't a lot of extra time in the special topics, that we really are doing good just to get the students through the content we need to get them through without adding extra assignments in.
And Jennifer had a follow-up question about students who may be struggling in the course. If you do have a student who's struggling with the material, do you try to keep them on pace with the rest of the class, or maybe just focus on the developmental portions only with them in the hopes that they'll learn that and then retake the class again, having a expanded base of knowledge?
I try to keep them on track with where they are. I mean, sometimes I've had to, where the class is, sometimes when I identify a student is really far behind, then it may be even more than just the special topics that they require. So we have a lot of tutoring available as well. So then I will say, you know, if you want to stick it out, you can, but you're not only going to have to do special topics, but also tutoring as well. So that's how I address that.
I feel like that if they've already paid for the course, then they might as well stay in it. And then if they want to withdraw at the withdrawal date, that's fine. They've gotten the majority of the course, and then they can take it again the next semester. And
I think we have one final question here. We're getting towards the end of our time. Keith was wondering about the student survey that was mentioned in the presentation. Was there a high response rate? Did you feel like you had a bias based on certain people answering or not? Could you speak to that survey?
Honestly, we did that last year, and I don't remember who did the survey. Who conducted that survey?
I think, didn't we give it to all special topic students?
Okay.
I'm thinking our students get surveyed a lot, so that's just why there's there's lots of surveys. I believe that we gave it to all of the special topics
Okay.
courses. So I mean that would be very representative of the entire group. I don't think that was just a small group. I'm pretty sure it was. I remember giving it to all of the classes.
We did that first semester, that fall 2017, because we wanted to have some feedback on everything. So we were really wanting that survey, and so
yeah.
That was when
okay.
I was serving as division chair and had 3 jobs at once, so it's hard for me to remember.
Well, thank you all so much for all of the information today. We've had some thanks here as well come through in our chat and question and answers. So I know that everyone attending really appreciated your presentation. I want to thank all of our professors for attending as well today. If you do have further questions, you have the presenter's contact information here, and you can also email us at marketing@hawkslearning.com. We will be emailing everyone a link to view this webinar on demand, and you can view all of our past webinars at our blog at blog.hawkslearning.com. Hope everyone has a great rest of their day.
Thank you.